Little Nightmares is one of those rare indie series that managed to grab the attention of players all around the world. Not because of flashy graphics or complex mechanics, but because of its dark atmosphere, distorted art style full of symbolism, and its haunting, dialogue-free way of storytelling. What many people don't know is that this journey actually began more than a decade earlier, when the creator behind Little Nightmares, senior narrative designer Dave Mervick, had to abandon an unfinished project, a failure that would later become the foundation for this unforgettable horror universe. So how exactly was Little Nightmares created? Let's walk through the journey, from the very first idea to the rise and eventually the decline of one of indie horror's most iconic series. To understand where Little Nightmares came from, we have to go back to 2004. At that time, Dave Mervick was part of a passionate group of students in Sweden working on a game called the City of Metronome. The game told the story of a city where children were kidnapped, their souls drained, and forced into hard labor to keep a massive machine running. The protagonist was a young boy trying to uncover the truth and escape. Along the way, players would face terrifying creatures and use a recording device to defend themselves, attack enemies, or disguise their presence depending on the situation. Thanks to its unique gameplay and mysterious concept, this student project even earned a chance to appear at E3 2005, an incredible opportunity for an indie team at the time. Unfortunately, and due to lack of funding and time, the project was forced to shut down. The City of Metronome quietly faded away, but for Dave Mervick, the regret never did. He strongly believed the game could have been successful if it had been completed. Determined not to give up, Dave later joined a newly founded studio, what would become Tarsier Studios. Learning from past mistakes, he proposed that the team should operate as a professional development company, which led them to collaborate with Sony. Starting in 2008, Tarsier worked on DLCs and console ports for titles like Little Big Planet on PS3. This period helped the studio gain real-world experience, technical skills, and confidence as a professional game developer. After years of working under Sony, Tarsier began thinking seriously about becoming fully independent and creating their very first original game. The studio wanted to make a horror game, one that felt disturbing and unfamiliar, set in a reality that clearly didn't belong to humans. Many ideas were pitched, but the concept that truly stuck came from a demo called Dollhouse. In this prototype, players observed a small character moving through a dollhouse-like environment, room by room. The experience made players feel like silent observers watching someone else's life unfold, fascinating but deeply unsettling at the same time. This idea became the foundation for Little Nightmares. At first, Mervick considered bringing complex puzzle platforming mechanics from Little Big Planet into the game. But during testing, it became clear that heavy puzzles killed the horror. Instead of thinking too much, the team wanted players to feel fear, the panic of being chased, the tension of hiding, and the helplessness of being hunted. That led to a simple but powerful design philosophy. This would be a tense game of hide-and-seek where the player is always the prey. Mechanics were kept minimal and natural. If Six couldn't reach a door handle, she needed to drag a box. If she needed to cross a gap, she had to interact with the environment. No inventory systems, no resource management. Nothing that would distract from the atmosphere. Little Nightmares tells the story of a child named Six, trapped inside a floating nightmare known as the Maw. This place is filled with grotesque, human-like creatures who prepare and consume children. Six must survive and escape before becoming food herself. Dave Mervick cited inspiration from Roald Dahl's stories like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Matilda, tales where children face cruel, terrifying adults. That contrast became the heart of Little Nightmares, a small, fragile child standing against overwhelming monstrosities. The yellow raincoat, the exaggerated monster designs, and the decaying world all symbolize themes of hunger, greed, and overconsumption. Interestingly, the game was originally planned to be called Hunger. The art team was given full creative freedom. Artists shared their own childhood nightmares, giant figures being chased, monsters hiding in familiar places. There were no strict rules. If a design made the team uncomfortable, it passed. Eventually, Mervick decided the monsters needed to resemble humans to create a sense of familiarity mixed with horror. Clothing was added. Human shapes were distorted. The result was unsettling in a way that felt deeply personal. Even with solid gameplay and art, Mervick felt something was missing. That's when he proposed a risky move, switching to a 3D camera. The idea faced strong resistance due to technical challenges. Platforming in 3D introduced many variables, so the programming team developed systems like jump alignment and beam alignment to keep movement precise. The result was a massive leap forward. The 3D perspective added depth, obscured vision during chase scenes, and significantly increased tension. From the beginning, the team agreed there would be no dialogue. Sound had to carry the story. The audio team used twisted versions of children's melodies, music boxes, simple instruments, and layered them with industrial noises, metal creaks, ship horns, Shanyan mechanical echoes. Six's presence was represented through short, looping, childlike tunes, innocent but warped and disturbing. Little Nightmares launched on April 28, 2017, published by Bandai Namco. It received strong reviews, scoring 78 on Metacritic. Critics praised its atmosphere, world-building, and unique take on horror. Encouraged by this success, Tarsier began work on a sequel. One major criticism of the first game was its short length. Tarsier accepted this feedback while staying true to their philosophy: quality over size. For Little Nightmares 2, the world was expanded and a new character, Mono, was introduced as Six's companion, controlled by AI. Co-op was considered but rejected, as it reduced fear and increased complexity. The sequel expanded beyond the Maw into a world controlled by the Signal Tower, a symbol of technology and media-corrupting society. New monsters like the Teacher, the Doctor, and the Hunter were introduced, each more terrifying than the last. Gameplay evolved slightly, allowing players to use improvised weapons. Combat remained slow, risky, and heavy, never empowering. Little Nightmares 2 scored even higher, earning an 82 on Metacritic and selling over 1 million copies within a month. After the release of Little Nightmares 2, Dave Mervick confirmed this was the end of Tarsier's story within the series. To him, the ending of Part 2 was the perfect conclusion. However, Bandai Namco chose to continue. In 2021, Supermassive Games took over development of Little Nightmares 3. While they preserved the visual style and silent storytelling, the approach became safer. Mystery was replaced with clear explanations. Ambiguity was removed. The horror lost its depth. AI companion issues returned, and reviews on Steam and Metacritic reflected a noticeable drop in quality. Dave Mervick believed that a good story doesn't need to explain everything. And for many fans, Little Nightmares 2 was the perfect ending. From a failed student project to a haunting, symbolic universe created by just 20 people, Little Nightmares remains a powerful reflection of childhood fear and a broken adult world, even if its final chapters failed to live up to its legacy.